Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 5 of our at-home learning. We are going to talk about section 6.5 today, which is going to talk about parallelograms a little bit deeper and kind of get more specific. So we're going to talk about rectangles, rhombus, or rhombi, I guess is the word, and squares. So let's get into it. We're going to start off talking about some interesting things about a rhombus. So the first thing that we're going to come across is talking about the diagonals. Okay, so we have a parallelogram right here. It is a rhombus, and now what a rhombus is, let me do this here. A rhombus is a parallelogram where all of the sides are equal. So, whoops, it's freezing on me here. Okay, so a rhombus, all sides are equal. That's an important thing to know. So it says, what are the measures of angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4? It's all these angles that are in the middle. But here's the one trick. When we talk about a rhombus, each angle in the middle, every angle inside is 90 degrees. Okay, so we're going to add a little, add our little 90-degree box to all 4 of them. So it's going to kind of go like that. Okay, each of those angles inside is 90 degrees. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll down to this next part. It says, all right, now we have another rhombus. What do we know about these angles? Angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. Well, one thing is the fact that the angles that are across from each other in a rhombus are always equal. So therefore, when we see that there's a diagonal that is kind of cutting them in half, then that means those angles are also going to be equal. So this angle is equal to this angle, which is equal to this angle, which is equal to this angle, and that's equal to that angle. So all of those angles, angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4, are all congruent. Okay, so a couple things that we're going to add into this is to say that when we have, if we have a parallelogram and it is a rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular bisectors. Means that they are perpendicular. So number 1, I'm going to add in our little 90-degree box again. Ooh, that looks bad. Okay, a 90-degree box. Having some technical difficulties here, guys. Okay, 90 degrees. And then also, they're bisecting each other. So it's going to, those two parts are equal. Those two parts are equal. Okay, that will always be true in a rhombus. Okay, moving along. So in this case, what we're going to talk about here is we have a rhombus again, and it says each diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. Okay, so once again, we are talking about bisecting, cutting in half, opposite angles. So that means when we take a look at angle 1 and angle 2, angle 3 and angle 4, those are all going to be equal because angle 1 and angle 2 are equal. And then since the big angle across from each other is equal to each other, okay, this angle here is equal to this angle here, then angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, which is congruent to angle 3, which is congruent to angle 4. All right, and then likewise, these angles here, those are all going to be equal. So angle 5 is congruent to angle 6, and that's congruent to angle 7, which is also congruent to angle 8. Okay, so let's I'm going to change this one up a little bit. Instead of asking what is WY, let's ask what is the length of XZ. How could we find the length of XZ? Well, if XZ is, if this part right in here in the middle, this diagonal is, part of the diagonal is 3, then that means up here is also 3. So XZ, which is all the way across, fix that, which is all the way across here, would be 6. Okay, how about this next one? It says, what is the measure of angle RPS? RPS, that's this angle right there. Well, one thing we know is that that's the same as that angle. And like we talked about before, above, that these angles are all the same also. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this as one triangle right here. Okay, if we can figure out what one of those little blue arc angles is, then we'll be able to figure out what all of them are. Okay, so in a triangle, we know that everything adds up to 180 degrees. So what we're going to do first, we're going to subtract the 70 that we know, which leaves us with 110. Now, since there are two angles, we need to take that 110 and divide it by 2 to get 55. So that means that each of these angles here, this one, this one, this one, and this one, are all 55 degrees. So the measure of angle RPS is equal to 55 degrees. Okay. Let's move on down here. Now, here's some problems that we're going to see a lot of in this section. And it's talking about, once again, thinking of this in terms of a bunch of little triangles. It says quadrilateral ABCD, this whole big thing, is a rhombus. What is the measure of angle ADE? So follow the letters. ADE, that's down here. Okay, ADE. We need to figure out how many degrees that is. Well, here's how we'll start. If this is 53 degrees, then that means this right here is 53 degrees. And what else did we talk about? We talked about in a rhombus, the angles that are in the middle are all right angles. They're all 90. So if we take a look at this, I'm going to get my, let's go red here. If we look at this as a triangle, we have this is 90 degrees. We have this part is 53. And that's the angle down here at the bottom that we're trying to figure out. We'll call that one X. So X plus 53 plus 90 altogether comes out to 180 because it's a triangle. So this is going to be X plus 143 is equal to 180 after we combine like terms. Subtract 143 leaves us with X equals 37. So that would be our answer, 37 degrees. Now a shortcut we could take is if we know it's a rhombus and we know that angle is 90 degrees in the middle, you could just do 90 minus the angle that they give us, 53, and get 37 also. Okay, either way, we can get 37 degrees for that angle right here. Okay, a couple more examples to go. This one, we're going to have to do a little bit of solving. Okay, it's asking what is the length of GH? Well, GH, that's right here. And since it's a rhombus, we know all of these sides are equal. So if we could figure out this side right here, then we'll be able to figure out all the other ones. So here's how we're going to set up the equation. We're not going to use this yet. Okay, we're going to wait on this. Okay, what we're going to start off with is we know that inside this part of the diagonal is equal to that part of the diagonal. So we're going to go 2x plus 3 equals 4x minus 1. All right, we'll subtract 2x from both sides. So we are left with 3 equals 2x minus 1. Add the 1 to both sides. Leaves us with a 4 here is equal to 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals 2. Now, that does not mean that that's our answer, right? Okay, that's part of it. We have x equals 2. So now we need to take this and plug it in here. Okay, so it's going to be 3 times 2 plus 1. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. Add 1 to that, that's 7. So that means this side is 7, which means this side, and this side is 7. So GH equals 7. Okay, a couple more here. We're going to skip through this a little bit, but let's finish this one off. It says, once again, we have another rhombus. In part A, it says, what is the measure of angle? MNO. Now, that's this whole thing. MNO. Follow all the letters. Well, we know these two angles are equal, okay? So if we know those two angles are equal, all we need to do is figure out that one. And if we have a triangle, I'm going to draw the little triangle bigger. We know that that's 90 degrees in the middle, and we know the angle right next to it's 62. So to figure out this angle, we could just do 90 minus 62. Remember the little shortcut, because we know we have a 90. That leaves us with 28 degrees here. So it means this angle and this angle are 28 degrees. So to figure out the whole angle, we need to do 28 plus 28, which leaves us with 56 degrees. Okay. Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky. Okay. Actually, you know what? Now that I take a quick peek at this one, it's not as bad as it may have seemed at first. So what it's asking in part B is, what is the length of QT? That's this way, halfway of the diagonal. Right, now we know the whole diagonal is this 5y minus 4. We're going to need to find half. All right, we'll get to that point in a second. But what we need to do, would they give us these two other sides that are 3y minus 1, 2y plus 3. We know those two sides are equal because it is a rhombus. So let's set up an equation. 3y minus 1 equals 2y plus 3. Okay, subtract 2y from both sides. That leaves us with a 1y minus 1 equals 3. Add the 1 to both sides. We end up with y equals 4. Now, that's not our answer. Okay? But we need to go take this and plug it back in. So 5 times 4 minus 4. 5 times 4 is 20. Minus 4, and that's 16. That tells us this whole thing is 16. So QT is half of that. What's half of 16? It's 8. So therefore, ooh, not what I wanted to do. Sorry about that. What's half of 16? It is 8. So QT is going to be 8. Okay. So I'm going to scroll back down here to the bottom. We're almost finished with this lesson. We're going to talk about a rectangle very briefly, and then we're going to talk about a square very briefly, and we'll be out of here. So taking a look at Theorem 618, we're talking about a rectangle. In a rectangle, diagonals are congruent. So that's talking about this. This one that I'm going to outline here in purple, and this one that I'm going to outline here in blue, those are equal in a rectangle. If they're not equal, it's not a rectangle. So that kind of leads us to this question. It says a carpenter needs to check the gate of his entrance and make sure it's rectangular. There's one diagonal that is 52 inches, and the other is 53 inches. Okay, so I'm going to write that in here. This one is 52. This one here is 53. So is the gate rectangular? It's no, because the diagonals are not congruent. Okay, almost finished here. So this last one, we're going to talk about a square. Now, in a square is pretty much a combination of a rectangle and a rhombus. Okay, everything that's true about a rhombus is true about a square. Everything that's true about a rectangle is true about a square. So the diagonals are equal. All the sides are equal. There's right angles in the middle. There's right angles on the outside. All those things are true in a square. So it says here that WY plus WX plus xz, wy here, plus xz here is 92. So what is the area of this triangle filled in? Well, first of all, if they add up to 92, but they're the same, first thing we're going to do is 92 divided by 2, which is 46. Each of these diagonals is 46. All right, so wy is equal to xz, and they both equal 46. Which means that the half, all right, so let's do this. Here's this triangle. Each half then, if each diagonal is 46, then each half is 23. That's 23, that's 23. So if it says what is the area, here's an old one. Area is equal to 1/2 times the base of the triangle times the height. Okay, and if we look at this triangle, there's a right angle. Okay, there's a right angle here. So this is the base, this is the height of the triangle, this is the base. So the area is going to be 1/2 times 23 times 23. Okay, and that will leave us with, let's get our, what's happening here? We get our calculator going. 1/2 times 23 times 23. Leaves us with 264.5. 264.5. And that would be units squared. They didn't give us units, so we're just going to stick with the number. Okay, last example. Having some troubles here, guys. Sorry. It says square ABCD has diagonals AC and BD. What is the measure of angle ABD? All right, so first of all, we got a square. Now, they're telling us how to label it. Make sure you pay attention to that. ABCD, go around the horn. A, B, C, D, just like that. All right, in a row. And it says there's a diagonal AC, and then there's a diagonal BD. What is the measure of angle ABD? So follow the letters A, B, D. Now it cuts across here, so that's this one. Well, here's the thing. In a square, we know this whole thing is 90 degrees. And since a square is also a rhombus, that means these two angles are equal. So 90, we divide that by 2, and that gives us 45 degrees. All right. Really good stuff. So, we're going to fill a little flow chart to finish this off, okay? All right, now pardon my handwriting here. There's going to be a little bit of it. All right, so first of all, if we take a look at this little flow chart, we start off with parallelograms. Okay, parallelogram is the basic part. All right, now a parallelogram breaks down to either a rectangle or a rhombus. Now, in a rectangle, okay, rhombus and a rectangle put together, that makes a square. Okay, and when you have a rectangle, we know that if you look at this part right here, there are 4 right angles. So you put those together, they make a square. All right, and then here, rhombus has 4 congruent sides. So if you have 4 equal sides and 4 right angles, then you have a square. Okay, now something else that's true is in a rhombus, then we have perpendicular diagonals. I'm going to use this symbol. All right, that means perpendicular diagonals, which means they make 90 degrees. Okay, and then also what's true is in a rectangle we have congruent. Should just use the symbol. Congruent diagonals.